watch certain dancers dance, you'll notice that. You'll notice that they use all different type of mudras in their dance, which channels energy, you know. So, I mean, I noticed that over the years, Michael Jackson was famous for using mudras. Go back and look at videos, you know. He not only used body mudras, but he used hand mudras too. If you go back to his earliest songs, when he blew up, when he blew up as a soloist, he used mudras. Or you go back to Billie Jean, what's her name, The Thriller. Most of them, you'll see that he would do where he's breathing, and then he'll throw his hand into a mudra, and he was famous for doing it, and then going on the tip of his toes as well. And it's like he's channeling energy right then, and then he'll burst out with another move, and another dance, and a vocalist or whatever. But he was famous as doing. I was wondering who's teaching him those mudras, you know. But then I started noticing all different type of dancers do the same thing. You know, they just, they use these mudras in order to accelerate energy through their body. So of course you can use it. You don't have to be in a meditative state.
They have learned that like just through the practice of dance.
I don't know.
Realize that this works, but they're not thinking metaphysically.
I don't know. I don't know how they. I mean, you don't have to be some metaphysical scholar to use a mudra. Yeah. A baby use a mudra. Watch a baby. Baby use mudras. It's just instinctively, but they do. So, I mean, you don't have to be no metaphysical scholar to use mudras. Your whole life is one mudra, when you want to look on the scope of things. So, but yeah, just if you study it, just go and look. You'll see that professionals, athletes. I notice certain athletes do it, dancers do it, singers. I notice they do it as well.
Yeah, that's why I thought of it. Like there's these, some of the Pandora station that have like meditative songs or meditative sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of them will be like mantras.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what if I practice this mantra in the car right now? Like, is it bad? Should I be sitting down quiet, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of driving? Should I not do that in that setting?
No, as long as you're not endangering the life of other people.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. I would wait until, if I was you, I would wait until I have a greater level of concentration and contemplation before I do it while I'm driving.
Yeah.
Because when you're chanting mantra, you can go into states of not only projection, but into mystic states. You begin to see pictures, colors. You start hearing things. So you have to be careful. I mean, you have to have a strong level of concentration to control the wheel and everything around you. You don't want to be out on the road and then that happen to you. Yeah, just have a stated time that you're going to do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with chanting a mantra to boost your energy or to control yourself or whatever, control something in your mind and body. But don't go into no deep state of chanting while you're driving. I wouldn't do that. Any other questions?
I would like to know the difference between nada and parasound. Is it the same? Is nada just a Sanskrit word for sound?
Yeah, parasound is just an aspect of nada. Parasound is like a unspoken sound.
Right, I have here written not spoken, more of a vibration.
Yeah,
Okay.
so all sound is a vibration. It's a mode of it's a cosmic mode of motion.
So you say that it's the static behind manifestation?
Um,
It's like the background of manifestation?
I wouldn't say it's the static, but it comes from the static. In other words, because static represents almost stillness, right? To a certain degree, right?
Yeah, it's that like all potential.
Yeah. So it comes from that. So the sound vibration is the thing that it's a casa, in other words. It's another way of looking at it. It's a casa. And a casa is the thing that what? Creates space. And a casa is the background for what? For all life. So it creates the space in which manifestation can exist within. And that's why they consider casa etheric sound, which is a degree of nata. So any other questions? I did my job well, and I taught y'all well. On what level? That may mean what level? There's many levels of will.
Well, I was briefly going over that on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
trying to talk about mind and how it's shaped and formed and what exactly tells mind to take a particular form.
Mm-hmm.
So that led into a conversation of will.
Mm-hmm.
But in trying to explain it, I was making it, I may have given the impression that it was intention, but not exactly.
What do you mean intention?
Like the divine will doesn't necessarily pressures upon mind. So there was, in other words, I was making it seem like that what differentiates different life streams in their evolution from that initial point of creation was the will of the spirit saying thus and thus should be a planet, thus and thus should be a rock, thus and thus should be a human. That directive upon mind.
No. I mean, I think when we get ready to do something, you always got to go back to yourself. Because remember, you are like, you're like the hub or, that perfect cell to the universe. All of us are. So in the sense that you got to look at what we know about ourselves. Because whatever we know about ourselves and what the great masters have told us about ourselves, we can picture that on a larger scale, you know. So, in order to bring about something, anything, there's many, many variables to that. So, it's not that, everything takes its rightful place, in other words, you know? So, I don't know if you have to look at will like that, but everything takes its rightful place, in a sense, and everything takes its rightful place because of the position that it is, or where it is, or where it think it is, So, that's why I say will is on many, many levels, so you have to, divine will imposes those conditions upon the mind. Now, you remember that mind is universal, and divine will is what? Universal. So therefore, it's not that it dictated that the wave or the modes of motion when placed in action took its rightful place. The same way we took our rightful place. So it's not that it dictated, because all is one and one is all. So it just took its rightful place. If the laws of creation stopped at being the laws of creation, that was their rightful place. You understand? The laws of karma stopped at being the laws of karma, that was their rightful place. The great galaxies stopped at there, that was their rightful place. And anything that came after that, that was their rightful place. Because something was put into action in order to draw it back again. So the cell, the tiny atom that went out, it found its rightful place. And it's only an extension of the first thing. So, to a sense, on one level, and don't get this wrong, on one level, everything is equal, and then on another level, it's not. And it has to be equal because why? It's connected. Understand? The laws of creation could not, in other words, let's look at it like this. The atoms and molecules cannot exist without the cells. You understand? The cells cannot exist without what? The organisms, yeah. And the organisms could not exist without what? All of that, and then the life forms could not exist without what? The planets. And the planets cannot exist without what? The sun. And the sun cannot exist without the galaxy. See, so all of them are just one extension of the other. So really, and then when you move back to the level of the absolute, right? It's just one big cell. The universe could be just one big cell. Because you have parallel universes, in a sense, when you begin to look at that level. So don't, in our limited minds, we try to separate all these things, and really there's no separation. Because one cannot exist without the other. One cannot exist without the other. So we are only an extension of the absolute. You know, so when you say will, the divine will imposes those conditions upon the mind. You're talking about every single so-called living thing in manifestation, and it's all part of the absolute. Now we can break it up and go into all these different dimensions and whatever, and levels of realms of existence. But when it all come back, it's only an extension of the first, of the one. There's only one life. So that's one way to look at it. So always go back to the original teaching. And that's why it's so wrong to, which we have to learn to do, which all of us are guilty of. It's so wrong to kill and destroy, one thing from one existence to another, because we are all an extension. When we kill one little thing, we hurt ourselves. We can't measure it, we can't see it, we can't, not at our level of consciousness, but it has an effect on us because it is an extension of us. The insects, the microorganisms, they can't exist without us. We feed on them, they feed on us. We need certain bacteria to be in the atmosphere in order to live a reasonable, decent life. The insects need us in order to exist. The animal kingdom need us to exist. The plant kingdom need us in order to exist. So it all plays on each other. That's why in the great teachings they say, do not kill, or thou shalt not kill. It's in all the great teachings around the world, whether it's Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever. It's in all the teachings not to kill. So that's why. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you ever kill mosquitoes?
Yeah, I have to. I mean, if it's messing with me too much.
You know that chapter in Yogananda's book where he talks about like mosquitoes, how he like repels them somehow?
Mm-hmm.
I always think about that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I try to like leave there, and sometimes you gotta go.
But I witnessed that though. I witnessed that when I used to be deep into my yoga practices, they wouldn't bite me. And I used to work down at Turkey Point, and it was right next to the water, and there was a lot of stagnant water there. And the mosquitoes, like 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, the mosquitoes would be heavy and thick, and everybody would be walking out there popping and carrying on, and I just walk out there like nothing. They looking at me like, man, what is all those vegetables in you that stop from biting you? And it was no use of me trying to explain to them that it was the pranayama exercises and yoga that I was doing. But yeah, I witnessed that. That's true. And you get heavy into your yoga and you develop this vibrant aura around you. They don't bite you. They don't bite you that much. They don't bite. At that time, they didn't bite me at all. So.
Do you have any info on the SIDHARs?
The what?
SIDHARs. SIDDHMRS. That's all this info came from them?
Sit-hearts. What they trying to say? Did you ask them what are they trying to say? The cities? The cities or Siddhartha talking about Buddha? Well, Buddhism came from Hinduism, you know. Any other questions?
If someone comes to you and says, I'm just getting into metaphysics, can you recommend a very basic metaphysics book? What's a couple that you would suggest?
I always say the 14 Lessons by Yogi Ramanujan. It's simple and easy to read for most people. It doesn't have a lot of Sanskrit knowledge in it. It gives you the very, 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 very basics. And it's like in my opinion, it's a crossover book. So, and it's an easy reading. You can read it in a couple of sittings. You know.
18 siddhars are saints in India, mostly of the site-like foundation who professed and practiced an orthodox type of sadhana, or spiritual practice in liberation. Yogi powers or siddhis are required by constant practice and more difficult. These siddhars can be compared to mystics in Western civilization.
I don't think it came from there. They talking about the Sakya system.
You did mention the city.
I read something one time, there was two groups of Indians, one that like kind of secluded themselves more than the other. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many sects, but they trying to say Sakya.
I just looked it up and see
Yeah.
that.
You have a response?
I've heard Shivananda mention these cities, the shrinking anima, mahima, ladima.
I guess the question is, where did our teachings come from?
These teachings came from everywhere. I mean, the ones who kept the teachings, I think, in good form was the Hindus and the Buddhists. But they spread it out all over the world. You had some of the teachings in Egypt. You had some of the Tantra teachings in the Jewish. The Kabbalah is really Tantra. The Kabbalah teachings is the Jewish Tantra version. You know, so, and then of course in Christianity, the mystic Christianities is the tantric form of the teachings anyway. So you have the tantric teachings or the Vedic tantric teachings in all the religions, and you usually will find them in the mystic part of that religion. You know, whether is there Christianity, Judaism, or Buddhism, or even the Egyptian, or even Islamic, too. So.
Most of those religions are taking like most teachings out, right?
Yeah. They all, you'll find them always separate from the mainstream because they had the secret part of the teachings that they didn't teach publicly. They hid those teachings. They hid the mystic because they wasn't allowed to give out to the public. Hmm? Yeah, because most people misused it because there's a long self-control type thing that needs to go on. Just like I was teaching you all in in the 8 limbs of yoga, you notice there's a long path to controlling your mind and your mind and your actions. And even in Tantra Yoga, I gave you the key to the Tantra Yoga, the looming. You'll notice that you got 10 yogas, and all those yogas is to help you control yourself. So you have to go through the 10 yogas in order to control yourself, in order to tap into the 11th yoga, Kundalini, you know. So it's the same way with most religions. They remove, they hid the mystic teachings and only made it available for those people who demonstrated self-control. And those are the people who actually became the leaders. And most of them was bound not to teach it unless the person demonstrates self-control. So.
You mentioned the website, whoever asked that question.
Hmm?
You mentioned the website, whoever asked
Yeah.
that question.
You want to type in the website to them?
Say fine.
Huh? Oh, the website.
Ask that question.
Whoever asked that question. Are we missing out on something?
Yeah, let them know about our website. They can
Yes.
tap in.
Oh, somebody in the chat.
Yeah.
You mentioned something on parallel universes, and they asked me that. They asked about that from quantum physics perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought he was referring to the realms, but there's this idea in quantum physics that for every decision you make, there's an infinite number of possible outcomes that can happen. So you make one decision here, in every other parallel universe, all the decisions are made. So that's not correct. You don't have a million or infinite number of you running around making every single possible. But I thought he was referring to seeing someone psychically when they're trying to make a decision. You see the decisions or the choices playing out in the aura, ideas coming out in the aura.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about as a parallel universe.
What do you mean by parallel?
What do I mean?
Yeah.
Just exactly what I mean, a parallel universe. I'm not talking about the other realms.
You're talking about like different manifestations,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily like a million of us. It's just a whole nother.
Is that us in each universe?
Not necessarily, no.
It's a confusing word as if we're parallel. People associate parallel with that.
Well,
Mirror image of this, but with different outcomes.
well, that's what Hollywood wants you to think of.
Maybe I'm potential and not like actuality, like it's what you consider that they actually exist.
Right.
Instead of potentially exist.
For example, if I come to a fork in the road and I decide to go right, in a parallel universe, I made the decision to go left. And that outcome is being lived out in my universe while I'm living out this outcome in this one.
Well, I mean, those are theories, but I don't know if that's necessarily so. What I mean is that there could be there could be a parallel universe, but working on the opposite energy level of this universe. In other words, you understand what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about. In other words, it'll be like antimatter to us. You know.
Like the opposite of everything.
Yes. But only opposite in the sense of energy. So therefore, the physical matter will be opposite to us as well. So.
Is it necessary for that to exist, for us to exist?
Hmm?
Is that necessary, don't you think?
I think it's almost necessary because even here, with us, there's always a positive and negative within your body, within any manifested thing. You'll find a positive and negative. Even in our life, when we look at the embryo, or the embryo of or the fetus, right? That the embryo is what first? Anybody know? Female. Right? Whether you male or female, the embryo is always what? Female. So then, let's say, and then you take on a male expression and you go through your life, right? At the end of your life, what happens to that male? He began to produce what type of hormones? What? And the female began to produce what?
Estrogen.
Huh?
Estrogen.
No, in her later life. Testosterone, yeah. They switch. You never noticed that? Yeah, that's what happened. So it shows you that there's a female. There's this positive and negative energy within the body. That's always there, whether you're male or female. You know, the male's supposed to be the positive energy, the female's the negative energy, and it manifests itself physically. You know, because when we start off, in the womb of our mother, all of us start off as, and then the male take on this male part, and then later in his life, that male began to to have that estrogen build up in, and the female had the opposite build up in her.
What's the metaphysical significance of that? It's to go back to a neutral state?
It's just, it's the flow of that energy.
Cycles.
It's the cycles, yeah. But it shows that negative, and I think one of the main things is because I don't want to say this. This is just my opinion. Is that the OJAS in the body is depleted to a certain degree, and it becomes, especially with those people who overused it or underused it or whatever. It becomes almost unstable, in a sense. To some degree. I can teach a whole class on it, my theory on it, but that's, but that seems to be the thing, because in yoga, we're taught to harness this ojas and to feed the brain with this ojas. And somehow that ojas feeds the body and feeds our and help us to gain control over the left and right energy pathways within the nadis. That's what ojas does. Ojas goes into the brain, stimulates the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, and allow us to gain control over the nadic flow of energy within the body. That's what it does. But somehow, as you get older, the males lean more towards the female expression of the energy, and the females lean towards the male expression of this energy, and it shows up physically in their body. The same way it shows up physically in our body. So it's just an expression of energy. So on a larger scale, going back to parallel universes, I think you always, even on a level of a universe, or a galaxy has it's following the same laws, I would think. Negative energy and positive energy or whatever. this negative expression, you know.
So you don't know that at some point in the
Hmm?
galaxy's life cycle, and the sun's life cycle is gonna go through that kind of, rearrangement, kind of like we do, right?
Yeah, it could be, or it could be that that the, and we just talking about theory, right? Let's say our sun could, this present sun could be located in 10 or either 10 or 10,000 different positions within this present universe. We don't know. And it could be expressing itself on physically and astrally and etherically on all those positions. You know, but negative and positive to itself in different positions, in other words. We don't know. You know, but we do know that the physical sun we see, there's also an invisible part of that sun. So even the in order to express itself, you know. So you know, so I mean, you know, that's what I'm talking about when I say parallel universe. Not necessarily this whole setup and is on a parallel universe. You know, each one of us existing in a parallel universe, and there's a Ivan X, Joshua. You know, it's just, you know, I don't believe in that. You know, I don't necessarily believe in that. The whole Star Trek thing. I think Star Trek did a couple of episodes where they switch. I don't believe in that. Yeah. I personally don't believe in that. I don't think that make any sense.
Just like the sun has many different positions, especially through the realms. You know, it changes its size, its shape, whatever its color, depending on the realm it's on. The same applies to us, even though we don't have that full.
Well, that's what we study in the. That's what we study in the. In the Constitution of Man.
Like
That's
the higher self. Like there's a different aspect of ourselves.
Yeah.
To all the realms, because we don't have control of it.
right.
Conscious control of it.
Conscious control of it, yeah.
But is it the sun is actually changing, or it's the interpretation of that realm?
Yes.
Because the limitations that it has on itself is the way it views the sun.
Yeah, it's the same sun.
Yeah, it's, right, so the sun isn't changing the size,
Yeah.
the shape, and the color, it's what the realm interprets because of its limitations.
Our perception of it.
Or
Yeah.
it's depending, we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean?
It's just like on the lower realms, the sunlight barely gets through on them. Yeah. So, but then on the higher realms, the sun is very bright.
So the higher aspects we consciously don't have access to right now, they're in a dormant state in a sense, or because are they active just like we're active in a sense, but on a higher level that we can't acknowledge?
A higher level that we can't acknowledge, yeah. Dormant in the sense of what? When you say dormant, what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking like Kundalini goes dormant at the base chakra kind of dormant, like they're in a meditative state waiting for us to realize and get control of that aspect of ourselves. Kind of like the moon sits up there in a meditative chakra kind of state.
Yeah, but the moon is very active. See, a meditative state is not really, I mean, we say dormant because it's dormant to us, but it's a very active state. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just working on a level in order to maintain a balance, in order to create something, create life or on some level.
So the higher aspects are in that state?
In other words, see, what do we say? We say we say at the base of the spine, right? We say at the base of the spine, you have the Kundalini, right? And the Kundalini is dormant, and they draw this snake or whatever, right? Whatever it is, right? But what happens at this? When the Kundalini goes into the so-called dormant state, you got to understand the dormant state. And this is another way to look at it. The dormant state to us, we classify that as some negative state, right? But it's really not, right? Because why? Because what does this state does? It causes a flow of what? Huh? Of prana, right? Of energy. Right? So now, of course, it's a negative state to this, in a sense. Why? Why is it a negative state? Because it became not whole. But is reversed to us, right? It's reversed to us. You can't see that?
When you say to us, what are you referring to? Our consciousness?
To us, yes. Because why? Because without the flow of this energy, what happens? Huh? No consciousness. So it's a positive state to us. It's a negative state to the whole.
To the soul.
Yes. The soul represents the whole inside of existence. But it becomes a negative state for the higher part of us, but a positive state for the basic part of us. You understand? Yeah. And then within that positive state, we find what? It has two poles. It has positive and negative. Right? Yeah. And then in order for us to get back to this higher state, what do we have to do? We have to create the state of Sushumna, right? In order to reach that higher state again. We have to bring together the positive and the negative as one in order to go back, in order to untie this and go into the state of Sushumna, which is called, in the core of it, the Brahmic state, right, of consciousness. So it's really not a dormant state. It's a dormant state, of course, for the whole, right? But it's an active state for us, which is the not whole.
So when people talk about the higher self, how should we think about it? Because a lot of people think about it as, this higher being that is you, guiding you, and it kind of is. But
Yeah, it's the soul. Remember go back to the Constitution of Man. What's happening? What's the first couple stages? What is the soul doing?
involving itself.
It what?
It's involving itself
How does it do that?
by placing greater and greater limitation, by pushing Shakti down Shubha.
Right. Now, is the Shakti the soul? What is the Shakti?
Static, cosmic energy.
No, but I'm saying when the soul take control of that Shakti, what is that Shakti?
Consciousness. Sound.
Okay, what is Kundalini? A vehicle. So who's driving the vehicle? The soul. So is the soul dormant? Huh? No, the soul is always there. The soul is the higher self. It's always there. It's the orchestrator of all of this, right? And it's expressing a part of itself, right? Because why? The soul, the soul is the witness for the what? The I, right? And the spirit is the witness. Yeah. The spirit is the witness for the I, and the soul is the witness for the expression of the I. You understand? So the spirit is never left itself. But the soul, in a sense, becomes the body and the consciousness of the spirit. Limited state. And the Kundalini expressed through its many vehicles of the soul becomes the consciousness of the soul. So therefore, the soul is always out there on the higher planes, the highest planes of this earth, orchestrating and working within the confined laws of karma to push the lower part of itself that it has manifested through what? Through evolution, in order to make itself whole once again somewhere. So I mean, that could be the higher self that people want to think about. That's the higher self. But the soul, remember the soul, because the soul has what? Is all aware. Now, of course, when the soul took control over this part, over this Shakti power, and molded and shaped it, right? It couldn't. The whole totality of the soul could not be within the Shakti power, because something had to manipulate the Shakti power, right? So only a part of it. So it only put a part of itself there in order to move through evolution. But the higher part of itself is always there, orchestrating the whole thing. Okay, but by karmic law, it must make itself whole again before it moves on back to the Godhead. All right. Why is it frustrating?
It's like we're going through all of this because the soul decided to involve itself, and we can't really ask the question why, because there is.
Well, the soul was given directives by the spirit to do that.
So it's like now we're fighting and crawling to try to get back.
You know, I mean, it's simple to understand. There was a transmission by Dr. George King, and he said I think it was a master theorist speaking through him, or I think it happened more than one time. The master theorist in Mars 56, and what they did, they actually spoke to the spirit or the soul of everyone that was on earth, to the higher realms. They spoke to the higher realms of the earth, where only exists this pure, I want to say soul consciousness, but or the I am, the consciousness that's connected to the I am. They spoke to that. So and before he said what he was going to say, he directed it, you know, to the spirits or the souls of man on earth. You know, so it tells you that this does exist, in my opinion. Hear that when you hear the way he expressed it, you know, where the master expressed it, and it happened more than one time. You know, so there's this level that exists. Every person on earth exists there in this higher state of consciousness. And they're working their way, and they're working their way back to that level. And once they work their way back to that level, then they can move on from there to wherever.
And in the case of man, we lost that connection when we chose free will.
Yeah,
That's when we lost that connection with what's happening.
yeah. And it's kind of the same way. If you go back to the 4 aspects of creation, on the level, right? That Mars Sector 6, Dr. King, or Mars Sector 8 gave to Dr. King, you can see the same thing over there. It's the same thing, the 4 aspects of creation, where you'll see that aspect, that the twin souls of aspect 1 never leaves the planet, and it's always at that highest level. Then aspect number 2, the twin souls of aspect number 2, which is positive and negative again, comes down to a lower level. Aspect number 3 is the aspect that moves around the solar system, the galaxy, or whatever. And then aspect number 4 is that aspect that can be born on different planets, through the womb of a woman or whoever. So, but there's always a constant there. And when you look at it and you compare it to the ancient teachings of the Constitution of Man, you'll see that it makes sense. And they're only following the law. Because why? The divine spark of God does what? What does the divine spark of God do? Huh? But what does it do? Huh? It never leaves its position with the absolute. Huh?
Our first aspects do the same thing.
That's right. It never leaves its position with the absolute. And so it really makes sense. Then the soul does what? The soul moves down to another level and does what? It never leaves its position. Huh? Like aspect number 2, the twin soul of aspect, it never leaves the planet. It never leaves its position. Then then what does the soul do? The soul turns around, and when we look at the ancient teachings, the soul turns around and does what? It creates a consciousness for itself, vehicles of consciousness for itself, right? It creates this one consciousness, which is the Kundalini, and then it creates different expressions of that, which becomes what? It becomes what? It becomes aspect number 3.
Those are the bodies that move.
The bodies that move. It travels. See? And then when it goes to create the 4th aspect, what happens with the 4th aspect? The 4th aspect is that physical aspect.
That's where the 4 aspects of sound come in.
Huh? Where it's born through the womb of a woman. You understand what I'm saying? And even when you go back to the Bible, when you go back to Genesis, it describes the 4 aspects again, all over again. Because Adam and Eve, Adam came from where? From God, right? Right? And came through the logos of the earth. So Adam never leaves the Garden of Eden. It has no desire. But then Eve comes from Adam, right? Right? Adam makes another part of himself, the psychic part of himself, right? And and now that part wants to do what? Travel outside the realms of the Garden of Eden. Right? So then what happens to Adam and Eve? They, once she does her action, a whole host of them come about, Cain and Abel, which happens to do what? The fourth aspect is born through what? The womb of a woman. And therefore, it keeps going. See? So it's always, the teachings are there. The teachings are there. That's why when Dr. King gave the four aspects of creation, I said, oh my God, this makes sense, because it correlates with the ancient teachings. It's just that when Dr. King delivered to us, he delivered it in a very simple to understand. It's a more scientific, and have many layers to it, and give us the keys to life on so many aspects. But it's there because now it explains the four states of sound. It explains the four aspects. It explained to me the constitution of man, and on a better level, and why, and why this is this way. And it tells us how we have to curb our own life actions in that karmic aspect, because you have the spirit, which never moves, the soul, which positions itself with the soul, with the spirit. Then the soul creates these vehicles of expression in order to gain the karmic experience necessary in order to do what? In order to merge back with the soul, and the soul to merge back with the spirit. So I mean, go back and listen to the lecture tape Dr. King gave on the four aspects of creation, and you'll see that. Any other questions? Did I confuse you more?
No.
So like you will, like when you predetermine your action, is that you operating from your soul level?
When you predetermine your actions,
Like that will, you have to predetermine?
if you constantly predetermine your actions in a proper way, you are in concert with the soul. See, in the proper way, if you follow all karmic laws, you become a point of consciousness under karmic authority, which aligns you with the soul and the spirit, which creates tremendous energy, tremendous knowledge and wisdom within your life. But when you go contrary to that, you bring about obstruction. It's which deters you from doing what you have to do.
That goes back to your, I think it was last class you said that you gotta live, with every action you gotta have God in mind.
We have to what?
Have God in mind.
Yes, yeah,
Every action you take.
yeah. That helps you to become that point of consciousness by doing that.
You were saying you can't hear well, as they're asked, like,
Yeah.
it's the other way around.
Can you have a microphone on there?
it's either that mic or that mic. I can't have both going at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So, like, when
All right.
someone asks a question, if you could repeat.
All right.
And then answer.
I'm fine with that. No, this is one person who is not listening to anything you're saying. No, like, he's still talking about the Siddharths. I figured out he's talking about the rishis.
The rishis, yeah,
And those who attain the cities.
yeah.
And I'm telling him that, yes, we talked about that in regards to.
That's all the
entering
masters.
psychic development and all of it.
That's all the masters, though.
And not listen to a single thing he's saying.
Yeah,
It's annoying because I can't hear anything
That's the great teachings that's from all the masters.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna come in if you really manage to. Yeah, I can watch on. I can watch on.
Fire questions.
I'd rather do more.
Okay, any other questions?
It's more practical question. When you're faced with two, I mean, I guess that's a simple one, but maybe like Friday, for example, where I was faced with all the dilemmas with my family and I had to postpone that class. It's like trying to outweigh what's the right action to take. I know what I should have done now, but in the moment, how do you weigh? how do you
So
weigh your
I told you all that before. Start what you finish. That's the law. If you start something, finish it. Bring it to an end in some type of way. You know, don't leave cliffhangers, because the only thing it does, it brings you back to it. It creates this ripple that have you to go back and correct it. So that's why all the great masters have said that. Whatever you start, bring it to an end. Because you have created that, so then therefore you are responsible for it. You know, that's just the law. You know, so whatever you start, you have to bring it to some type of end. And you might want to bring it to a good end than an end of chaos. Because you bring it to the end of chaos, then you created, you know, more domino effects to happen for you. So that's why, that's just the law. That's why you have to be consistent in what you do. You know. So, I mean, this you'll notice about the mystics, they try to bring everything to an end. That's just following the law. That makes it easy? Huh? Yeah. So, it's simple. I mean, you started doing the right thing by reaching out, trying to bring it to closure in the right way by having someone else to take your position. There was nothing wrong with that, but just make sure that it's complete. You know.
And everything that I'm thinking about the part in Autobiography of a Yogi,
Mm-hmm.
where he was about to be initiated into Kriya Yoga,
Mm-hmm.
where his master was, and his master manifested this big palace for him to be initiated within, and said, I need to do this so that you can burn up this wish that you made lifetimes ago, that
Right.
you wanted a palace and you wanted riches. Now that I've manifested it, you can move on and you can be initiated into Kriya Yoga.
You can live through it for this night.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So that really made me think, everything you want, everything you wish, you put it out there, so you have to complete it before you can move
Yeah.
on in anything. No matter how many lifetimes ago you.
Yeah. Or you have to rise above it. You have to burn up that desire. You know. Remember the light on the path, and even the voice of the silence. He says what? Burn up what? Desire and ambition. You told me you read it, right?
Well, I read it in the advanced course.
Okay.
Where
It's,
there's sight, light on the map.
yeah. And say burn up desire, burn up ambition. You know, unless you, and that's what it means, all these idiosyncrasies that we have attached to our life, you know, learn to live without it, learn to not desire it so much.
It'll just keep coming back
Yeah.
and you can't move forward.
To come back in different states, different levels. you know. So, I mean, it's, use it almost sparingly or in the sense that you only use it when you need it, anything. It's just like the old American Indian tradition. They only killed they only went and killed the animals that they needed to survive on. They didn't necessarily just go slaughter up a bunch of animals in order to make money. They only took from the earth what they needed and nothing more. That was a comic manipulation. Not that I'm saying killing animals is good in any which way, but you only go and take what you need, not what you desire, not what you lust after, not what not for some theatrical reason, You only use those things in a practical way. And at the same time, don't attach yourself to it. Learn detachment. Because when you learn detachment, then you will only use those things that you absolutely need. And you won't. And then you'll use things to get to a means. You'll do things just to get to a means. You won't do it just to say, okay, I'm doing this so that I could feel good or look good, And those are hang-ups. Those are the things that hang us up in life, not only in life, but lifetimes. So we have to learn not to allow ourselves to fall in those patterns, in those ripples of life. Because those things will hold you up for lifetimes.
And that's what mantra and pranayama does. When we talk about calming the waters through mantra and our practices,
Yeah.
it's calming down those rivers. I guess through the silence.
Yeah, it's helping to burn up that negative karma. But at the same time, you have to use, you have to have direction, purpose and direction of why you're doing it.
There's no point of walking out the door and
Yeah,
creating chaos again.
yeah. And you have to have purpose and direction in your life. So. You can answer that, can you? Yeah. One of his main masters in the early days was the same master that Mahatma Gandhi had. Remember that, right? Any other questions? There's no questions? I guess we can close out if there's no questions. So next week we will start on 7, right? Of the outline, the chakra system. Let's go ahead and say a prayer and close out.